Unfortunately, due to the new episode of South Park that came out last night, today was the day that I learned of the existence of Labubu dolls. For about half that episode, I thought that they were a made-up concept for the South Park episode. I should have known better. I truly should have known better. They are real, and they are the worst thing I've ever seen. For those of you guys who don't know what I'm talking about, Labubu dolls are a trend coming out of China right now that are basically like, they're like Pokemon cards or Bakugan. Like if you were to open up like gamble packs, but if they were for, I want to say like 12-year-old girls, but you know that it's probably really popular with tons of women well into their 20s, 30s, and 40s at this point. They're these little like keychain plushies, and they all have this like, they have this big toothy smile, and oftentimes their eyes and their teeth will be differently colored. They're basically Beanie Babies, but keychains, and their designs are so off-putting to me. Like, they look so horrifying. But I don't know why, but apparently they've been going crazy popular, right? But they are a Chinese product, which means, like any Chinese product and many other foreign products, they are subject to tariffs, which was exactly the basis of the plot of the newest episode of South Park. Butters, the carefree, happy, fun-loving, sort of comic relief, and also main source of bullying of the show, the main bullied character of the show, actually gets a girlfriend in the newest episodes. Big spoiler alert. A girl that he likes, one of the most popular girls in the school, if I'm not mistaken, asks him to go to her birthday party. And in order to impress her and make her happy, Butters wants to get a Labubu doll for her, which is very popular in the school at this point. And so, Butters decides to go buy one. But it turns out you have to buy these little, boxes and luck out to get a rare, good one. And so Butters spends all of his money getting her a super rare Labubu doll, and they end up being demonic, and they, summon Satan. So that's pretty crazy. Trump, of course, shows up with Satan, because Trump and Satan are fucking, and we get some pretty funny, anti-Trump stuff, of course. But the main focus of the episode was less so on Trump himself, and more on Trump's dogshit policy, that being the tariffs. And, obviously Labubu dolls are dumb, but the show finding a way to explain the basics of a political, economic policy without coming off as preachy or boring was very impressive to me. The average person still, at this point, probably does not understand what a tariff is, because when they Googled it in crazy record numbers after the election, they probably stopped reading after the first sentence, and when they realized that half the words in the definition didn't make sense to them. And so South Park more or less explained it flatly. Oh, you think I pay the tariff? No. You pay the tariff. And, really leaned into it. It was very, very funny. So no doubt, right now, as of last night, a significant amount of Americans who had no idea what tariffs were, how they worked, or how Trump's tariff policy will affect them, found out because of an episode of South Park. Gotta say, Trey Parker and Matt Stone don't always hit, but when they do, they hit it out of the park. And speaking of, as you know, South Park episodes are always very topical. They take only 1 week to produce, though right now the release schedule is bi-weekly because I believe they're still working on 2 more specials for HBO Max, I believe. Or maybe it's, the 2 Paramount specials they still have left to make. So they alternate 1 week of work on the special, then a week of work on the next, on an episode, and they put out the episode, go back to working a week on the special, then go back to working on the next week's episode. So we're on a bi-weekly release schedule. Despite that, though, South Park has always been very topical. Their 1 week production time means they can give commentary on issues that will be, the talk of the town the day the episode drops, if they know it's something that's coming, right? And in this case, it's the drama over Trump's tariff policy. Now, if you're liking this video so far, consider dropping a like and a comment before we get back into it. It really does help a lot, and don't forget to subscribe. But getting back into it, though, Trump's tariff policy is basically a looming boulder on a cliff, teetering left and right, before potentially falling onto all of our heads and crushing us alive. Because Trump himself, or at the very least his supporters, don't know what a tariff is, and they don't understand that putting a tariff or a tax on imported goods does not mean that the countries importing the goods, or exporting the goods, are paying the tax. It means that the country importing the goods, America, and specifically the businesses importing the goods, our American retailers are paying the tariff. And if you think they're going to take the tariff they're having to pay on the chin and not immediately transfer it to the on-the-shelf pricing for like 90% of the products in America, which come from other countries, then you're out of your mind. Which is why a lot of our government right now, even Republicans, are low-key panicking that Trump might actually succeed, not chicken out, and put these tariffs into place essentially overnight, destroying the American economy, destroying the buying power of the American dollar, and in large part crippling the entire global trade network. Like, every country would be hurt by this, to a degree that's scary to even think about or theorize about. Which is why Donald Trump has filed an appeal to the Supreme Court to try and get his tariffs through, because they've been blocked as of so far. Because if he gets them through, it is going to be catastrophic. So let's go ahead and go ahead and hear about it, because right now they're trying to shoot down Trump's tariff, get them out of effect, but right now they're in effect, which means already things are getting expensive. A really good example actually being the Nintendo Switch. It went up in price recently. Video games have gone up in price in some areas, I believe. But particularly it's game consoles and their peripherals that have gone up in price. Computer hardware has gone up in price. I haven't looked at the side-by-side pricing for many things at this point, but I know those particular things, the industries where I monitor the prices of things fairly frequently, I've already seen the price hikes, directly attributed to the tariffs. And they're about to get even crazier because now, oh yeah, the PS5 went up in price despite now being like 3 or 4 years old now. That's crazy. It's now more expensive than when it came out. With that said though, these tariffs are nothing compared to what just went into effect. The 50% tariff. That means it's very likely that in the near future, we're going to see prices for many things coming out of China rise by 50%. And I think Trump is pushing for upping it to 100, and that's what he's trying to get through the Supreme Court. He's also trying to defend the tariffs from getting shot down entirely and get the Supreme Court to just unilaterally, like just pass it. Like, it's bad, guys. It's real bad. Get ready to see everything get simply too fucking expensive. Let's find out how bad the damage is. Well, that's not where... Oh, there we go.
On exactly one of the biggest points to focus, which is that this has marked a pretty stunning reversal for India, considering it had been our understanding that the country was long prioritized in trade talks. In fact, you had the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in an interview earlier today say himself that he is surprised at how this has progressed, because as of 12:01 Eastern, there is now this 50% tariff. It doubled a 25% baseline tariff that's been in place since August 7th by slapping an additional 25% tariff on top of that over India's imports of Russian energy supplies. But keep in mind,
dude, everything is about to get more expensive. Like, shit that you didn't even think was made in other countries is about to get more expensive. And the crazy thing is, even things made in America will necessarily get more expensive because Trump's doing universal tariffs. He's not just tariffing products that are produced in other countries and imported here for sale. He's tariffing inputs, meaning raw materials. If you are importing steel to make chairs here in America, if that steel comes from another country, which it does almost always, usually China, chairs just got 100% more expensive to make, which means more likely than anything, they're going to be just as expensive as if we just bought the chairs from overseas right now, that we cannot source all the materials for manufacturing from America, which means unless Trump accepts that tariffing the inputs in particular is stupid, then not even American manufacturing will save us from the price hikes. Trump would be on to something if he didn't tariff the inputs and heavily incentivized American manufacturing, but he's not doing that. He just thinks making foreign purchases more expensive will suddenly magically make American manufacturing boom. To be fair, that is a pretty capitalist mindset.
We're showing right now for our radio listeners pictures of the Indian Prime Minister Modi, who was one of the first foreign leaders to visit this White House after President Trump's inauguration. And India had offered concessions, including slashing tariffs completely on some U.S. Exports, everything ranging from luxury goods to motorcycles, for example. But if we've learned anything from the trade negotiations with this White House, it is clear that they are looking for something more than just lowering tariff barriers. And our reporting has indicated that it does appear that India's perhaps more protectionist policies when it comes to market access for U.S. agricultural as well as dairy products has really stalled these negotiations. And at this point, it's not looking too good. Paul, we had reported.
Ironic how India's more conservative leadership is fucking over America's more conservative leadership and trying to do what they want. Because when you have conservatives in charge, it's all about fuck everyone else, I got mine. And now, like, India's leadership, which seems to be very fuck everyone else, I got mine, is running into America's leadership, which is also very fuck everyone else, I got mine. And now it's like, there can be no mutual, like, agreement here when both parties just want to fuck over the other and take the other party for all they're worth. There can be no mutual agreement. They cannot come to compromise.
Earlier this week that a U.S. delegation that was set to arrive in India on Tuesday ended up deferring their visit, and at this point we haven't seen any indication that that trip has been rescheduled.
I want to switch gears here for a minute, Tyler, and ask about the European Union, because it looks like they are going to acquiesce here, going to try to fast-track legislation to remove all tariffs on U.S. industrial goods, specifically some agricultural products, some U.S. seafood. Is this going to be enough to appease President Trump, you think?
So this was actually widely expected because this is considered to be, we can think of it as a legislative trigger in order for the U.S. to lower its tariff barriers when it comes to autos. We had gotten that joint framework statement between the two trading partners last week. This was really the first time that we saw the trading partners put pen to paper when it came to outlining what the EU and the U.S. have agreed upon. And in that statement, it was our understanding that the EU would have to put forth this legislative proposal slashing their tariffs on U.S. industrial goods. And as you mentioned, we have reporting that that's also going to include a perhaps more preferential tariff rate when it comes to U.S. agricultural and seafood products. But So
food's gonna get more expensive. We get a lot of food from India. They're big on agriculture there. Got a lot of land to do it on, and the land is, just good for it, A lot of good farming land in India, especially southern India. And so we get a lot of food from there. Like, seriously, go to your produce section at your local grocery store and start looking at the stickers or the packaging for everything and find out where you get it from. The one thing that you can almost reliably guarantee comes from America are the oranges. The oranges are almost certainly from America. Then again, they might be from Israel. We ought, like, a fair amount of oranges that end up in America, you're either going to get Israeli oranges or you're going to get American oranges, Floridian oranges, or California oranges. Those are like the three places that produce oranges where you will find said oranges on shelves in America. Which means, besides that, like corn, but we don't even really grow the sweet corn here. It's going to be feed corn. That's not going to get much more expensive. Plus, we subsidize that anyway. It'll never get that expensive. It's also the same corn we use to make high fructose corn syrup, so at least that ingredient won't be getting more expensive. I think, we do strawberries and grapes, I think. But, like, considering how hard we're having to think about what foods we're the primary source of for the rest of the world and our own shelves, it gives you some perspective on how we are not the source of produce for our own shelves and tables for the most part, our country. we are importing much of that stuff, which means it's extremely unlikely that we're not going to see food skyrocket in price in the coming weeks. And food being more expensive is genuinely the worst case scenario. Like, if you're going to measure an economic crash, there are a few things you can measure it by. One of the most severe standards is whether or not people can afford housing. Probably the absolute, like, Armageddon catastrophe standard with which to judge whether we're in an economic crisis is if we have reached the people can't afford food point. Like, that's when you know that America might actually be done. Like, that's when heads start coming off. Yeah, when people are actually starving in the street, in the millions, like in the tens of millions starving on the street, that's when heads are gonna come off for sure. Yeah.
This was something that needs to happen, but what's perhaps surprising about this reporting, or not surprising if we look at the reason here, is that the European Union is looking to fast track this process because according to the statement, the lower auto tariffs will go into effect retroactively to the start of the month. So the EU is hoping to get this proposal through by the end of August, so then that lower tariff rate on autos can be backdated to August 1st. If they wait to September, then it would be backdated to September 1st. So that does appear to be perhaps the push here by the European Union to get this proposal through in order for the U.S. to lower tariffs on autos. Of course, as you well know, the agreement struck was that the EU would get that more preferential rate of 15%.
That, you guys know what to do. Start investing in Brondo. Start investing in Brondo now while the market is down, and sell when it comes back, okay? Brondo the Thirst Mutilator. Find it on Robinhood. Invest now. Buy while the market's down.
Baseline on the majority of its goods, but then for the sector-specific tariffs enacted under Section 232, a completely separate authority that the president has invoked, those auto tariffs are going to go down to 15% as well.
Tyler, just on the
got
surface,
electrolytes.
looks like
it's what
the
plants crave.
EU is just caving to the pressure from President Trump. Is there another read here?
Well, that's been part of the pushback that we've heard the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen have to contend with when you look at how some of her member states, for example, have put out criticism about this deal. But her herself have said that this is a good deal, but that it's also a necessary deal because it did appear that
Damn, Zelensky's a short king. I never knew this. What a short king. I think I'm taller than Zelensky. That's kind of crazy. I hope I get to meet Zelensky one day. I'd love to shake his hand. That'd be cool as fuck.
Came to the point in the negotiations where this was what basically the best that the European Union could do. You'll recall this deal was announced after von der Leyen had flown to meet President Trump during his visit to Scotland a couple of weeks ago, and there really was this last-minute push to get it done before that deadline. But really, it's considered to be significant when we really do focus in on those sector-specific tariffs, including autos and the
I hear he was taller before a Russian gunner blew off his knees. You mean his shins, Mr. Popo. Yeah, it's true. He killed 50 men. And that Russian machine gunner blew his shins away. But he survived. And he crawled forward and he took out that platoon of Russians. And yeah, the Russian who took out his shins is one of them 50 men that he killed.
U.S. did renew its commitment to make sure that there's a lower tariff rate when it comes to pharmaceuticals, chips, and lumber, which we know are coming down the road.
Ah, well, there we go. Yeah, I am really surprised about the fact we don't hear about the input tariffs more.
On exactly one of the biggest...
Oh, sorry, it's repeating. I'm really surprised we don't hear about the input tariffs more, because it really is the worst and most stupid part of what Trump is doing. Like, to be fair, from Donald Trump's perspective, there could be a logic to the idea of making foreign purchases more expensive at an escalating rate. Let's say you tariff foreign imports on products coming onto store shelves at starting with like a 0% chance. With after 2 years, it goes up to 5%. And then 10% after another year, and then 15. And you give time for companies to start moving their manufacturing to America, and you don't tariff inputs, so the raw materials are not, expensive so you can actually do the manufacturing here. But you can't do the tariffs and then have manufacturing be in America overnight. It's about a 6-year minimum time span from conception to having a working, producing factory for any given product being built. So if you've got no factories in America, or you need to build hundreds of them in America, it's going to take no less than 6 years to get that going, which means you're just making shit more expensive for Americans with no alternative for cheaper purchases, realistically, for like upwards of 6 years. This is not how you bring manufacturing back to America. The way he's doing it is just the worst possible way. Here, Trump tariff inputs. People really need to talk about this part of it in particular, because it really is... It is the absolute worst part of Trump's tariff policy, and no one's talking about this specific part of it, just about the tariffs in general. Let me see if I can find it. Fuck. God, no one is talking about it. It's a universal tariff, which means it includes all things imported, including raw materials. No one is talking about this fact, and it's so vital to understanding that there is no, reason. There's no, reason to Trump's madness. There's no method to his madness. It's just madness. He doesn't know what he's doing. That's the problem, is doing any meaningful change to help make America better takes longer than a single election term, and more likely than anything, it takes like 2 or more, which means that you rarely see a case where positive change is attributed to the sitting president by the American people enough to, affect the long-term opinion people have of that person. You're just getting so many negative consequences of past actions that hit the reputation of the sitting president, and so many actions they take that won't see the fruits of their sowing until a president or two later. And when people are as dumb as they are, you can't expect them to make the connection, right? Anyway, folks, if you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, enjoyable, or educational in any way whatsoever, and you want to support me, consider leaving a like and a comment down below. It really does help to boost the channel and the algorithm, like I said before. Make sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications. Follow my social medias linked down below in the description if you haven't already, particularly my fan Discord, as that is the main hub of my fan base and community. And I host weekly call-in events, watch parties, movie nights, and more there. So if you don't want to miss a thing, make sure you hop in, you won't regret it. And finally, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub to somebody else on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merch through the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how you support me, though, thank you so much for watching, as always, and have a good one.